Have you ever felt like you're constantly on the edge of a precipice, senses on high alert, waiting for something that might never happen? This is chronic anxiety, a silent shadow that steals peace and lightness from daily life. But what if I told you that the key to understanding this state of readiness for danger might be hidden in nature, in the instinct of an animal that lives under constant threat? Prepare to dive into a journey that connects the complexity of the human mind to the ancient wisdom of the animal kingdom, revealing how the hare, with its tireless vigilance, can teach us about our own mental flight that never ceases. Physically, the body is in constant readiness for battle. Muscles remain tense, especially in the shoulders, neck, and jaw, creating a persistent feeling of stiffness and pain. The heart might race for no apparent reason. The stomach tightens into a knot, and breathing becomes shallow and rapid, as if we're always about to run. Minor physical symptoms, like a slight headache or tingling, can be interpreted as signs of serious illness, further activating the cycle of worry. Chronic anxiety goes far beyond mere pre-test jitters or that fleeting pang of worry before a big presentation. It's a state of being, a dense fog that envelops mind and body, transforming daily experience into an exhausting marathon. Imagine living with an internal alarm system that constantly blares, even when there's no actual fire. Excessive worry is the driving force, leading the person to endlessly ruminate on past events that can't be changed, and to predict future catastrophes that might never happen. This is the person who mentally rehearses every possible conversation before a phone call, or who spends hours imagining worst-case scenarios for a trivial problem. Decision-making becomes a heavy burden, as every choice is viewed as a potential mistake with disastrous consequences. There's an immense difficulty in relaxing and simply being. Leisure loses its flavor, sleep becomes fragmented, and the ability to concentrate drastically diminishes. The world seems like a place full of invisible traps, and the mind becomes a private battlefield where the enemy is often invisible and self-created. This mental hypervigilance drains vital energy, stealing the joy from small moments and transforming life into a never-ending mental flight, an incessant search for a peace that always seems just out of reach. It's like having a radio tuned to a non-stop breaking news station, where every piece of news is a potential catastrophe. This condition manifests in countless ways, often subtle, yet always draining. Mentally, the anxious mind is a whirlwind of thoughts that tumble over each other. To understand the essence of incessant vigilance, there's no better observer than the hare. This small mammal, an inhabitant of open fields and sparse forests, is the personification of watchfulness. Its large side-set eyes provide a nearly 360-degree field of vision. A hare never fully gives itself over to a meal. It takes a few quick bites of grass or a leaf, and then, in the blink of an eye, it raises its head, freezing for an instant as its senses sweep the environment. It scans the horizon, moves its ears in all directions, and sniffs the air for any scent of danger. This vigilant pause is repeated incessantly, a routine of eating interspersed with moments of security inspection. Unlike other animals that can retreat to deep, secure burrows, the hare often relies solely on its speed and this hypervigilance to escape. It doesn't have a fixed, safe home to retreat to. Its safety lies in its ability to perceive danger before it arrives and in its skill to dart away at high speed, zigzagging to confuse its pursuers. Its life is an unending cycle of searching for food, and at the same time, a constant rehearsal for escape. This means that, without moving its head, it can monitor almost its entire surroundings, detecting the slightest movement of a predator stealthily approaching. Its long, erect ears are like biological radar dishes, capable of rotating independently to pick up the faintest sounds: the rustle of a dry leaf, the snap of a twig, the whisper of the wind announcing a change. The hare is always listening, always observing, in a state of continuous sensory alert. It is not a predator. On the contrary, It is prey for countless larger, stronger animals. Its life is a delicate dance between the search for food and the urgent need for survival. The hare's adaptations for this risky existence are remarkable. Its feeding behavior is a testament to this vigilance. The parallel between the constantly alert hare and the human living with chronic anxiety is more than a simple metaphor. It's a mirror reflecting deeply similar patterns of behavior and internal sensations. The hare, with its existence dictated by imminent threat, offers us a vivid glimpse into what it means to have the fight or flight system operating in overdrive. It doesn't discriminate between a harmless breeze and a predator's step. Everything is processed as a potential threat. In the same way, the mind of an anxious person operates in a similar mode. Small setbacks, a phone notification, a change of plans, a sideways glance are amplified, analyzed, and often distorted into signs of imminent danger. A cough in the elevator might be interpreted as the onset of a serious illness. A casual comment from a colleague could be seen as a sign of disapproval. The ability to discern between real and irrelevant threats becomes impaired, and everything becomes a red flag. Think of the hare's hyper-vigilance. Its eyes and ears are constantly picking up every stimulus, every shadow, every sound. The hare is always ready to bolt. Its body never fully relaxes. Its muscles are always in a state of readiness for the run. This same physical and mental tension is a hallmark of chronic anxiety. Although we are not literally running from a predator, the body reacts as if we were. The anxious person feels a constant internal restlessness, a need to be prepared for the next problem. This can manifest as insomnia as the mind won't shut down, as the need to plan every detail of an event weeks in advance in the illusory attempt to control the uncontrollable, or as difficulty simply relaxing and enjoying a moment because the mind is already on the next what if. The constant anticipation of danger, real or imagined, keeps the person in a state of incessant mental flight, without a safe haven where they can truly let their guard down, mirroring the hare's life that rarely finds a moment of complete peace in its exposed habitat. Science offers us a fascinating window into the mechanisms that underpin both the hare's instinctive vigilance and human chronic anxiety, revealing the biological and neurological roots of this readiness for danger. In the animal kingdom, the neurobiology of the hare is a prime example of how evolution shapes survival. Its sympathetic nervous system, responsible for the well-known fight or flight response, is incredibly sensitive and swift. This means that, at the slightest sign of threat, whether visual, auditory, or olfactory, its body rapidly floods with adrenaline and cortisol, the main stress hormones. These hormones instantly prepare the body. The heart speeds up, blood is diverted to the muscles, breathing becomes faster. The hare doesn't think about fleeing. Its body reacts instinctively. This is a biological program that has ensured the species' survival over millennia. The swiftest and most vigilant individuals escaped, passing on their genes. In humans, although our context is far more complex, the core of chronic anxiety lies in an excessive or dysregulated activation of very old and primitive brain systems. The amygdala, an almond-shaped structure located deep within our brain, acts as the body's fire alarm. Anxious people often develop dysfunctional thought patterns, such as attention bias for threat, where they unconsciously focus more easily on negative or ambiguous information. There is also catastrophizing, the tendency to imagine the worst possible scenario for any situation, and rumination, the act of endlessly replaying the same worrying thoughts. These cognitive distortions feed the anxiety cycle, creating a feedback loop where the body sends danger signals and the mind interprets and amplifies them, keeping the inner hare in a constant state of alert, even when there is no real predator in sight. It rapidly processes sensory and emotional information, triggering the fear response. In individuals with chronic anxiety, the amygdala can be hyperactive, interpreting neutral stimuli as threatening and sounding the alarm too frequently. This leads to the continuous release of adrenaline and cortisol, keeping the body in a prolonged state of physiological alert, similar to that of the hare. Beyond biology, cognitive psychology helps us understand the mental component of anxiety. The inner hare isn't confined to open fields or forests. It manifests in our offices, our homes, our social gatherings. Let's see how this hypervigilance and readiness for flight translate into everyday behaviors, making anxiety a central character in various situations. The constant what-if alert. Imagine Anna, a university student, preparing for a group presentation. Instead of focusing on the content, her mind turns into a merciless courtroom. The idea of interacting with strangers, of being judged, of having to sell himself, generates intense aversion. His mind creates a scenario where he stutters, people ignore him, or his work isn't well received. Although it's a great career opportunity, the fear of judgment is overwhelming. Carlos invents an excuse not to go, preferring the safety of his comfort zone, even if it means missing a professional advancement. He fled the social predator, just as the hare darts to the safety of the thicket at the slightest sign of risk. What if I forget what to say? What if the projector doesn't work? What if someone asks a question I can't answer and I make a fool of myself? Her inner hare makes her mentally rehearse every possible disaster with a racing heart and sweaty palms. She checks the slides repeatedly, searches for flaws in her argument, and spends sleepless nights exhausted by a danger that exists only in her mind, much like the hare that incessantly scans the landscape, even without seeing a predator. The escape from opportunities. Carlos, a talented designer, receives an invitation to present his portfolio at an important networking event. His anxious hare panics. The perfection trap. Sophia is a data analyst. She submits a report, and even after her boss's approval, she can't stop thinking about possible errors. Her inner hare compels her to recheck every number, every comma, doubting her own ability. She spends hours re-verifying completed work, fearing that something minor went unnoticed and could lead to a future catastrophe. This exhausting behavior prevents her from moving on to new tasks and from enjoying her achievements, keeping her in a state of constant vigilance over her own performance, as if a predator were always about to attack her reputation. The journey of understanding chronic anxiety through the perspective of the hare invites us to deep self-analysis. The hare is a master of survival, and its vigilance is, for it, a virtue. However, what is adaptive for an animal in a constantly threatening environment can become a prison for humans, whose threats are often mental constructs or exaggerated worries about the future. The great lesson the hare offers us is the need for discernment. We can begin to challenge catastrophic thoughts, to practice mindfulness to anchor ourselves in the present, and to build spaces of safety, whether physical, mental, or emotional, where we can, in fact, rest without guilt. The hare teaches us that life is a balance between vigilance and vulnerability. By embracing this duality, we can transform anxiety from a tyrant into a guide, learning to listen to our instincts without becoming their prisoners, and thus tread a path towards a more lasting and conscious inner peace. It shows us that while the ability to be alert is valuable, the inability to relax can be equally detrimental. Many of the worries that afflict us are like the rustling of leaves in the wind for the hare. They do indicate real danger, but they are interpreted as such by an overactive alarm system. The inspiration here is to learn to lower our ears when there's no imminent threat, to allow the body and mind to rest. This doesn't mean ignoring real dangers, but rather learning to differentiate between constructive worry and useless, exhausting rumination. Living permanently in flight mode, with a racing heart and an overloaded mind, is a path to exhaustion. Anxiety, in the right dose, protects us, but in excess, it steals our lives. Reflecting on the hare allows us to understand that not every noise is a predator. By recognizing the inner hare within us, we gain the power to question its impulses. And so, the journey of the hare reveals more about ourselves than we ever imagined. The tireless vigilance, the readiness to flee, the fear of the unseen, all echo in our own human experience. But if the hare taught us about the strength of this instinct, it also invites us to a final question. How can we, in a world of so much noise and imaginary predators, allow our own inner hare to finally find a safe place to let down its guard and truly rest?